The Boston Strangler. A true crime story of terror in the 1960s. The city of Boston, with its rich history and cobblestone streets, was gripped by fear in the early 1960s. A mysterious killer, known as the Boston Strangler, preyed on vulnerable women in their homes, leaving behind a trail of death and unanswered questions. For nearly 2 years, the people of Boston lived in terror as police and investigators scrambled to catch the man responsible for one of the most chilling crime sprees in American history. This is the story of the Boston Strangler, a tale of murder, mystery, the eventual capture of a man whose name would forever be etched in the annals of true crime. Albert DeSalvo. The beginning of the nightmare. The terror began on June 14, 1962. When police discovered the lifeless body of 55-year-old Anna Slessors in her apartment on Gainsborough Street. She was found naked, strangled with the cord from her bathrobe. The scene was staged to appear sexually motivated, though there were no signs of penetration. Her body was left in a degrading position, signaling the killer's psychological need to humiliate his victim even in death. The murder of Anna Slessors marked the beginning of what would soon become a horrifying pattern. Over the next few months, a series of similar killings shocked the city. Women of various ages, ranging from 19 to 85, were found murdered in their homes. The killer's modus operandi was consistent, though would strangle his victims with an item of their own clothing, often tying the knots in a peculiar bow-like fashion. These details would become the chilling signature of the Boston Strangler. A city in panic as the murders continued, the citizens of Boston grew increasingly fearful. Women were afraid to stay home alone, and many took precautions like changing their locks or avoiding contact with strangers. The media dubbed the killer the Boston Strangler, a name that struck terror in households across America. Newspapers printed graphic accounts of the murders, fueling widespread panic and sensationalizing the case. In the fall of 1962, the killings seemed to intensify. Each victim's death bore the unmistakable signs of the Strangler. By the end of the year, police were facing mounting public pressure to solve the case. The city demanded answers, but the trail of the killer seemed to vanish after each attack, leaving behind no fingerprints or clear leads. The victims. To understand the scale of terror caused by the Boston Strangler, we must look at the victims. Over 13 women lost their lives to this elusive predator. Anna Slessors, 55, the first known victim, murdered in June 1962. Mary Mullen, 85, found dead in her apartment. Initially believed to have died of natural causes, later linked to the Strangler. Nina Nichols, 68, discovered in her Brighton apartment, strangled with her own stockings. Helen Blake, 65, murdered in her apartment. Like the others, she was strangled and sexually assaulted. Sophie Clark, 20, a young woman studying to be a nurse, killed in her home in December 1962. Patricia Bissett, 23, another young professional, strangled with her own clothing. Each murder shocked the community in its own way. The age range of the victims, spanning decades, confused investigators, as most serial killers target a specific demographic. This randomness made it even harder to profile the killer. The investigation. By 1963, the investigation into the Boston Strangler was one of the most extensive manhunts in American history. Detectives from the Boston Police Department worked tirelessly, but the killer remained elusive. The lack of physical evidence at the crime scenes frustrated investigators, as did the absence of eyewitnesses. The case took an unusual turn when law enforcement received reports of a man named Albert DeSalvo, who had been arrested for unrelated charges of sexual assault. DeSalvo was not initially linked to the murders, but his history of bizarre and predatory behavior soon caught the attention of detectives. DeSalvo had a troubling history known as the Measuring Man and later as the Green Man. He had a pattern of entering women's homes under the guise of a repairman or salesman. Once inside, he would attack them. Although his previous crimes involved sexual assault rather than murder, investigators began to wonder if DeSalvo could be the Boston Strangler. Albert DeSalvo's confession. In a shocking twist, Albert DeSalvo confessed to being the Boston Strangler while in custody for unrelated crimes. His confession was chillingly detailed. DeSalvo described each murder with such precision that investigators believed only the killer could know these details. He recounted how he gained entry to the victims' homes, often by posing as a maintenance worker or by simply knocking on their doors and asking for help. DeSalvo's account of the murders seemed to confirm what detectives already suspected. The strangler was a man who blended into the fabric of society, capable of charming his victims into a false sense of security. However, there was one major problem: no physical evidence linked DeSalvo to the crimes. His confession, while compelling, was not enough to convict him in court. Some detectives and legal experts questioned the validity of his confession, suspecting that DeSalvo might have fabricated his involvement for notoriety. The trial and conviction. Despite his confession, Albert DeSalvo was never formally charged with the murders attributed to the Boston Strangler. Instead, he was convicted of a series of unrelated sexual assaults and sentenced to life in prison. DeSalvo's incarceration did little to quell the public's fascination with the case, as debates over his guilt raged on. Was Albert DeSalvo truly the Boston Strangler, or was he merely a disturbed man seeking attention? The lack of physical evidence left room for doubt, and some experts believed that multiple killers might have been responsible for the murders. The DNA breakthrough. The case remained unsolved for decades, shrouded in mystery and speculation. Then, in 2013, a major breakthrough occurred. Advances in DNA technology allowed investigators to revisit the evidence from one of the crime scenes: the murder of Mary Sullivan, the final victim of the Boston Strangler. DNA found at the scene was matched to Albert DeSalvo's nephew, providing a familial link to DeSalvo himself. This discovery seemed to confirm what many had long suspected: Albert DeSalvo was indeed the Boston Strangler. The DNA evidence provided the first concrete link between DeSalvo and the murders, finally bringing some measure of closure to the case. Legacy and cultural impact. The story of the Boston Strangler has left an indelible mark on American culture. The case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films, including the 1968 movie The Boston Strangler, starring Tony Curtis. True crime enthusiasts continue to study the case, fascinated by its twists and unanswered questions. For the city of Boston, the memory of the Boston Strangler serves as a haunting reminder of a time when fear gripped the streets and a predator lurked in the shadows. The case remains a cautionary tale about the fragility of trust and the devastating impact of violence on a community. Unanswered questions. While DNA evidence has linked Albert DeSalvo to at least one of the murders, questions about his involvement in the other killings persist. Some experts believe that the discrepancies in victim profiles and methods suggest the work of more than one killer. Others argue that DeSalvo may have exaggerated his role to gain infamy. The mystery of the Boston Strangler may never be fully solved, but his legacy lives on in the annals of true crime. As we delve deeper into stories like these, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance, justice, and the enduring quest for truth. The story of the Boston Strangler offers chilling insights into the darker aspects of human behavior, as well as valuable lessons for protecting ourselves and our families from similar threats. By examining the events and the patterns that allowed the killer to target his victims, we can derive practical steps to enhance safety in our day-to-day lives. Lessons learned from the Boston Strangler trust can be exploited. Lesson: Albert DeSalvo often gained entry to his victims' homes by posing as a maintenance worker or repairman. His ability to appear trustworthy highlights how predators can exploit trust and familiarity to access their victims. Takeaway: be cautious about who you allow into your home, even if they appear legitimate. Vulnerability attracts predators. Lesson: the Strangler targeted women who were often alone in their apartments, making them more vulnerable to attack. Takeaway: criminals often prey on those who appear isolated or defenseless. Recognizing this pattern can help us mitigate risk. The importance of community awareness. Lesson: the Boston Strangler's spree thrived in an era before community-driven awareness and immediate communication tools. Many victims were unaware of the threat until it was too late. Takeaway: community vigilance and communication are vital. Sharing information about suspicious activity can prevent crimes. The role of law enforcement. Lesson: the lack of physical evidence and inconsistent investigative techniques in the 1960s hindered the capture of the Boston Strangler. This underscores the importance of both modern forensic science and public cooperation with law enforcement. Takeaways: support local law enforcement efforts and stay informed about neighborhood safety initiatives. Preparedness and awareness save lives. Lesson: many of the strangler's victims may not have anticipated a threat, allowing him to catch them off guard. Takeaway: preparedness, such as installing security systems or learning self-defense, can make a significant difference in preventing harm. How to protect yourself and your family: secure your home, lock your doors and windows, always keep entry points secure, even when you're home. Use technology: install peepholes, doorbell cameras, and smart locks to monitor visitors. Verify strangers: always ask for identification from maintenance workers or delivery personnel, and verify their legitimacy with their company before granting access. Build a safe routine: avoid predictable patterns, vary your daily routines, such as the time you leave and return home, to make it harder for someone to track your movements. Inform loved ones: share your whereabouts with family or friends, especially when you're alone or in unfamiliar places. Trust your instincts: if someone makes you feel uncomfortable, do not ignore the feeling. Take precautions, such as avoiding close contact or leaving the area. Strengthen community ties: join neighborhood watch groups. Collaborate with neighbors to report suspicious activity. Stay informed. Use apps or social media groups to stay updated on local crime trends and safety tips. Teach safety skills for yourself and loved ones. Learn basic self-defense techniques. Carry personal safety devices such as pepper spray or alarms. Teach children to avoid talking to strangers and how to seek help in emergencies. Monitor vulnerable family members: check on elderly relatives, as they may be more susceptible to scams or intruders. Encourage open conversations with younger family members about safety without instilling undue fear. Be cautious with information: avoid oversharing personal details on social media. Criminals can use this information to target you or your family. Use technology wisely: emergency apps. Install apps that allow you to quickly alert authorities or trusted contacts if you're in danger. Home automation. Use smart home devices to create an illusion of occupancy when you're away. What society can do: the Boston Strangler case also emphasizes the collective responsibility of society to prevent such tragedies. Here are broader actions we can take as a community. Promote awareness. Public campaigns on safety measures and crime prevention can help educate citizens. Enhance policing. Support modern policing methods, including the use of DNA technology and community policing strategies. Foster mental health awareness. Addressing issues like abuse, trauma, and mental health can help identify potential offenders before they commit crimes. Conclusion and takeaway form the Boston Stranger. The horrifying acts of the Boston Strangler remind us of the importance of vigilance, both at a personal and societal level. By learning from the past, we can adopt measures to protect ourselves and our loved ones from harm. While it's impossible to eliminate all risks, awareness, preparation, and community cooperation can significantly reduce the likelihood of such incidents. By taking these steps, we ensure that stories like the Boston Strangler remain cautionary tales from history rather than recurring headlines in our lives.